All right. Welcome, all of you, on this late afternoon. I will take a small wait till everybody is seated. But thanks a lot that you're still showing up at this time. I mean, it's been a long day, and even if you've been here yesterday or doing the workshop as well, you must be tired. So relax. I'm not going to dive deep into code. My name is Rutger Roffel. I know bit difficult name to pronounce in a lot of countries. My parents didn't really know internationalization, even though my mother is from Australia, but they messed up that part. But you do not have to pronounce it. If you have any questions during this presentation, just shout hey or hi or whatever floats your boat, and I will try to answer it. I'm a software engineer by trade, so I focus on building apps, innovation. We call everything innovation in IT, but basically the new things where nobody really has knowledge of, so we just try and mess around a bit and see if we can have a good result. And if we have a good result, we will brag about it because we did it with the newest tech. That's basically it. I'm also a chapter lead of Google Developers Group in Groningen, which is the city where I live. Also probably never heard of that city, but it's in the north of the Netherlands. Maybe known by our soccer club, which has some small talents like Virgil van Dijk and Arjen Robben, Luis Suarez. They started there, but a true hero is basically Erik Nevland. You might know him because he's from Norway, and otherwise he's a star in our city and not here, so that's also funny. All right, building apps for rural Africa. I have one question, and I tried to not to be too interactive at this time, and I also read this Nordics guide for dummies where it says like, yeah, people do not really like interactive moments, but I talked to a lot of people and I came to the conclusion that was a lie. So I have a question: if anybody here has been to Africa? Whoa, quite a few hands. So that's a nice statistic for this group. And is anybody from Africa, or does somebody over here has African heritage? Nobody. Okay. No worries. I just asked this because if there is something that I interpreted differently or wrong, then also please just correct me. I mean, I've been a few times, but I'm not an expert on anything. But first, a bit of backstory. I work at the company, a software consultancy company. I'm not going to try to make this as an ad, but we need to have the backstory on how I came on this stage. So I work here, a company called nuances. We do all kind of things, basically consulting. So people pay us money, we make things, they are happy, hopefully, and we call it a day. But we mainly specialize in NGOs. We specialize in green energy and green future. We specialize in smart systems for solar, for wind, but also in government work. We try to find assignments that better the world instead of hurting the world. And that's our philosophy. So all the money we get, we also try to put back into society. So we believe in if you have happy people, so we invest in our people with sports, with giving money to society, to good causes, to building playgrounds, enabling people to do what they love. We really believe if you can unload and unwind your mind at the end of the day, that you become happier and you can work on better solutions because you have more creativity in your head. So that's basically your circle. We do it with things like educating people all around the world about plastic pollution in oceans. So the sailboat went all the way to New Zealand and stopped at all the countries in between, which is quite far from here, but also still from the Netherlands. We are not that far apart. But we also coach and help companies in Africa, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. We coach these companies with building software, with building apps. We do not do that for profit, but try to enable it. We are not going to dictate how people should build software. We are enabling the people to go through the creative process together. Our knowledge with their creativity. They know their own markets. I don't know nothing from Norway, to be honest. I read the Wikipedia But then I got distracted about Vikings and about all that kind of stuff, so I didn't really get to the end of the Wikipedia page. So I went here to some of the stands and I was like, what are you doing? And they looked at me like, we're the biggest bank in Norway, don't you know us? And I'm like, I don't know. It's the same if I go to Africa. I don't know anything. If somebody from Africa that lives on the savannah goes here, they probably also are a bit clueless. But because of all the work that we did, like reminding people on taking AIDS medications, or to help hospitals to keep the solar power running together with batteries so they can work off-grid and continue operations. We also, for example, help girls that face domestic abuse to help them create an app to create more awareness. And based on all that knowledge that we also share, so our philosophy is everything we learn we try to share, that's why I'm here. We got a call from an NGO called Justdiggit. And what Justdiggit does is they go all around sub-Saharan Africa, where the ground is dry, where trees are dead. They try to let people dig earth smiles. So earth smiles are basically big holes in the ground. And if it rains, it only rains a few months a year in some parts of Africa. But if it rains in a lot of areas, it pours down and it will flow everything away because there is no grass anymore, there are no trees. It will just float everything away. Whole villages gone, animals gone. So what they do, they teach people, and they have over 430,000 hectares under restoration, under regreening. And over 450,000 of those holes have already been dug. And what's the result of that is that 18.7 million trees have been recovered, and they have 20 grass seed banks. So basically, you start with digging holes, then the grass will grow. Because you have a hole, grass will not float away. Water will stay in that hole, you will get small shrubs, and then trees will go. That within 4 years. If you wait even longer, the terrain is green again. I just want to make a disclaimer. I do not work at Justdiggit, it's my client. I'm here for myself, even though my company's logo is on there. Because we are going to talk about some quite sensitive subjects, like colonization, racism, backgrounds. So if you might get triggered by that, feel free to leave or to ask questions as well. Please have a healthy discussion instead of and talk with each other when needed. That's just the mandatory disclaimer. So first of all, Africa is not a country. That sounds really obvious, but it's really, really, really big. I mean, if you put Europe in Africa, it's almost nothing. I cannot tell someone in some parts of Africa that I went here to Norway and I crossed like Germany, Denmark by plane just to be here, like 3 countries in 2 hours. It's big. So does anybody know where the first picture is taken? That's just me on a... Yes? Sorry?
Maybe it's like in Sahara, or I don't know.
Sahara of Abu Dhabi? Yeah, could be. No, these are the Canary Islands, Spain, where a lot of British people go to holiday, and Dutch people as well, because it's nice and warm. But that's also part of Africa. The center one is a really cool fella I met. He drove a bike to the village because he heard there were white people in the village there. He also always goes, and it was 12 years ago, so he wanted to see that with his eyes. That's in Tanzania, near the rainforest of Tanzania. The last picture is also Tanzania. It differs 5 kilometers. So you have a hill. One side of the hill is savanna. The other side of the hill is more like jungle-y, rainforesty like. So if I talk about Africa, I basically generalize, sorry for that, and I split up. Not in a colonial way, but split up the map in 2 terms. So you basically have Saharan Africa, and Saharan Africa I can describe as sand. So it's just sand. Of course, really beautiful city, nice people, really good food. but it's basically the sandy part of Africa. And then we have sub-Saharan Africa. So as you can guess, that's everything underneath the Sahara. So that's not, most of the time, not sand. Can be savanna, like the Lion King. Fun fact, the Lion King is based on the nature in Tanzania and Kenya. I don't know if the character names are the same here in Norway, but I'm going to spoil it for you, I'm sorry. The lion is called Simba in the movie, but Simba is Swahili, the language that they speak in some parts of Africa, is Swahili for lion. So the lion is called lion, and the monkey Rafiki is called friend, because it's the friend of the lion. The bird that they follow in the movies is called Zazu, but Zazu is Swahili for following, and they keep following that bird. So if you know a bit of Swahili, that those names are weird. Fun thing is, I showed people in Tanzania videos of the Lion King, and they were like, "Oh, this is cool. Is this movie about us? This is pretty nice." But Africa has a dark past. Colonization was a real thing. And I got this image from Wikipedia. I know, sorry teachers from my law school, Wikipedia isn't a source, but it was the best image I could find of this. I only altered the image a bit, so I crossed that line of changing images, but I put a red line through possessions because they're countries. Yeah, the only country that hasn't been colonized is Ethiopia, or here, Abyssinia, if I pronounce it correctly, probably not. But especially the Belgian, the British, the French, the German, the Italian, the Portuguese, the Spanish, and as I must confess, the Dutch as well, but they are not in this map because it was just another time frame, I guess. They colonized parts of Africa. Is that an issue, and how is it app related? Yeah, it is an issue. It is an issue. It's a big issue, even still today. Now all or most countries are sovereign. Some countries are still in conflict with France, for example. They want to be more independent. But it causes distrust to people like the most of us here, sorry to generalize again, but people with a lighter skin. Families have been oppressed for generations and generations and generations. So there is, if I go to some parts of Africa, people will like, oh, I've heard from my parents that these are not the good guys. A lack of resources as well. So European settlers went to parts of Africa and was like, oh, that's gold. We can use that. They don't use the gold. Lithium, still today, with a lot of Western countries are still kind of colonizing parts of Africa to dig for lithium and other rare earth minerals. So if you take the resources, they cannot build their own stable economies because they don't have the stable backbone. For example, if another country came into Norway, let's say the Netherlands, I mean it was a colonization empire once, go to Netherlands, get all the gas and all the oil from Norway, way before you set up that pretty nice fund, I must confess, and then say, yeah, you can have your independent country, but we will keep this. Then the country would have developed way differently. There were forced culture changes. Sorry, is a question. Yes, correct. The Dutch disease. Ironically, I am Dutch. I've got like the colonization passport combo. I'm Dutch and I have an Australian passport. So I read quite much about that part, and I'm not really happy. But at least we can educate each other. But forced culture change is also like wearing clothing. Like our clothing is different than in some parts of the world. But yeah, going naked to something. Now, you have to wear clothes. If you want to do some writing with your left hand, you cannot write with the left hand. You have to write with your right hand. Racism still a thing today. I don't know if anybody has seen that video of Trump last night, I believe, together with the president of South Africa. There's still a lot of issues on that part. And all those things combined cause big wealth and differences. So you have really rich people, you have really poor people. But the whole middle ground is basically gone in most parts. All right. Apps. As I said, I'm a software engineer by trade, and I know this is the UX UI track, so I'm sorry, not all my slides are properly aligned or nice, and I must confess that sometimes I just shifted the image a few pixels to piss people off. So back to Justdiggit, the NGO I was talking about. They have one mission: to inspire, to educate, and enable farmers to apply regreening methods and track progress. So what they basically want to do is they want to regreen a lot of Africa. That's the mission. But they also want to track the process. They do that with satellite imaging. They do that with surveys on the ground. Thousands and thousands of people are working at the organization, but we now hit the spot where we cannot scale those people anymore. Because, yeah, there is like, one, there is a money thing. You are an NGO, so your money isn't unlimited. But the other thing is, yeah, find a lot of people to do that job. So Justdiggit came to us with all the expertise we had for building for Africa. Like, oh, we need an app. We are headquartered in Amsterdam. We would, of course, enable people over there to help build the app, but we would like to have the lines a bit shorter to, can you do that? And we're like, yeah, guess so. Can't be that difficult, right? We make apps all the time. We do it for big governments. We make driver licenses. I don't know. We do all kind of things. So just another rodeo. But oh, that rodeo, that became quite a ride. That, yeah. So we let one of our user experience designers design an app, like a first version, an MVP, and it looked like this. Like, yeah, we needed something like a profile. We wanted to let people learn, teach courses to people to how to dig those holes, but also how to prune trees, how to care for your herds of goats. We also want to have a library where people can use books, read information, see videos about how these practices are done, because we cannot send all those people to all those villages. They are active in over 570 villages just in Tanzania alone. So that's an operation you cannot really do. And if you want to have study books, you cannot really do that because of all the moist. All the books will be rotten in 2-3 years. So we designed this app, and we were really, really happy for an MVP, a small MVP with the outcome already. So we went there before build, or we asked people before building, like, what do you think of this app? Because if you are going to start to build it, then it will cost quite some money. So we first like, how do you like it? And the results, yeah, I've been humiliated. I think our designers still have trauma from that. Because we thought it was quite an okay app for just show some information, some courses to study things. No, it was a Mzungu app, they said. I heard someone laughing. A Mzungu app. Mzungu are basically, yeah, the official term is a white person that travels the land. But the unofficial term, sorry for swearing on the camera and on the live stream, the unofficial term is fucking white people. We showed them the app and they were like, "Ah, fucking white people. Again." For example, it said, this is the library where you can find all your information. And the Maasai people in Tanzania, their feedback was, what is a library? I don't know. They don't have books. Why do you need a... if your whole society, or a part of your society, like in your villages and your tribes, do not have books, why do you need a library? So if you don't have libraries, you do not know the word library. It's not because they're stupid, it's just unknown. Just like they probably do not have saunas in those regions. This is, yeah, just not used there. So we changed a lot. We removed the library, we called it different. They also said that it is really boring because it's all white colored. They also didn't really like the orange, even though it was the, yeah, like the design system of the company. Achievements, no clue what it was. We couldn't work with this. So back to the drawing board. We changed things. We switched things around. like this. And we were even happier with the results because it had a more playful look and feel. You can now track your progress through a course. You have nice icons. You can put in your phone number. Yeah, you can even link to WhatsApp. We really like that. We were proud of this app. I talked with some, and this is just a small part of the app, of course. We have a whole Figma file, but it wouldn't fit into this slide. But I was even at the point where I was like, oh, I'm going to meet the material design team of Google next week, and I want to show them this, and maybe, I don't know, I've heard something about design awards, I don't know, maybe we can enable something, I don't know. I was hopeful, but once again, you can see the title. They called it a Mzungu app. So fucking white people returned. We were back. Yeah, but why? Why? So we tried to do remote UX, UI sessions, UX interviews. We were in Groningen, the Netherlands. They were in Tanzania. How are we going to test what they do? So we tried to use laptops, calls, but yeah, laggy. The internet over there was not that good in some areas. The translators, they mingled in between, and we couldn't get results. So I got a message from a manager like, what are you doing in like 3 weeks? And I was like, in 3 weeks, I don't know. Laying on the couch watching movie, I don't know. The weather is shit. It's October. What else am I going to do? I mean, it's the same in the Netherlands as over here. Summer is our favorite day of the year. You had it earlier this week. So good luck the rest of the year. But yeah, they were like, what are you doing in 3 weeks? Nothing. Okay, can you go to Tanzania? And I was like, oh, that's not an everyday question. We can do that, I guess. So we went there. I went there with my team, with my UX researcher, Tamara. She's over here, and we went there to interview Maasai people. We went to places where tourists do not really go, and I always thought that was from movies and documentaries, and everywhere you go, you will find some German being on a... Anyone German over here? Knew it. You will find someone like, oh, guten Tag, it's so schön here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but not over there. We visited villages, as I mentioned before, where they haven't seen a white person for over 12 years. In those 3 weeks, our team on the ground arranged meetings with the chiefs of the villages. So you have small villages with chiefs. The chiefs are basically the kings of the villages. It's quite an easy system. If you are the oldest guy in the town, you are the boss. Which is easier than having a king, I guess. Which is also being the oldest one in the family and being a male at some point, and then you get the message. So they arranged that for 3 weeks because of the distrust. 2 years in a region next to that village, two doctors from Doctors Without Borders went there to vaccinate people. But they didn't have the right permission from the right chiefs, and they've been stabbed to death. So that's something we try to avoid, and that had all to do with distrust. So if you go there, and of course, wonderful work what they do, but if you go there, and I'm not going to shame the doctors, they do tremendous work, they are heroes in my eyes, but if you go there without the right permissions, and people get vaccinated, and the chief doesn't know, he's like, oh, colonization is back on the menu, not going to happen today. So we did a lot of UX testing, and we do that by sitting next to the person testing it. We don't say anything. We observe, and sometimes we ask a question like, why did you do that? What are you doing right now? Just to have the thought process. We ask them to think out loud. We wrote it all down. I have books and books full of notes just from a week. I wrote down every step they took. Every breath they took as well. Wrote down everything. We needed to know it all. And we saw that the people were not using the apps like intended. It has to do with culture. Like the village we visited looks like this. Wonderful women in nice colory dresses. It's called a shuka. A shuka is basically cloths that you wrap around yourself. And the Maasai, they are basically all farmers. So they have cattle, mostly goats, because goats are good in dry weather, and that's also their bank account. That's the money. Yeah, the more goats you have, the more rich you are. So we ask in the app also a question like how many goats you have, and they didn't want to share that because it's like, hey, what are your bank details? How much crowns are in your bank account, or how many euros? It's a weird question if you don't know the person. So that's something what they skipped. But we wanted to know that for the courses. This is called a maxai. A maxai is basically a plow. We have donkeys and cows. Lots of time only cows because they are stronger, but they can teach the donkeys how to do the plowing job, and the donkeys will teach the cows. But this was in one part. We moved to the savannah part. It was a drive of 20 minutes. 20 minutes is nothing in some African parts. And we had this course. We want to test this course, this information. And the guy asked me, like, what is Maxai? And I was like, what is Maxai? I just tested this app with 20 people in the other town, and they all knew. But there are such regional differences. And language, vocabulary, it's different. This is just a map of South Africa, a whole other region, but they have over 30 official languages. So you cannot just launch an app in English. You need to know the most used languages and expand on that. And sometimes we are now in the process to add languages that do not even have a language tag in the ISO system, but we still have to add them to the app. Next year, we are going to expand to Wolof as well on the East Africa, which is also a language not many people have known of, at least in this region. We mostly use colors. This is a Dutch image. It says, hooray, it's a girl. We mostly use colors here in the West. If a kid gets born, right? Pink for a girl, blue for a boy. Of course, we have all now kind of discussions if that's still the way to go, but that's where we have colors for. Or, sadly enough, with a funeral. A lot of people wear black, some countries white, but it's mostly white or black. But not where we went. Colors have different meanings, and those meanings are really important. You have white, it means blessing for peace. So if someone is sick, you go there, you put them a white shuka to show them we are going to bless you. Red is blood. We had some error messages in our app in red, because all error messages are always red, right? People clicked away the screen so fast if they saw the color red. Because if you see red, it means that you're probably going to war, or if you are a hero going to kill animals, or if there are. So red is not the color to use in your. If you're designing app for most parts of Africa, do not use red. Black is the holy color. I think much is here, so if there was like a funeral. Blue means energy. Orange and yellow means hospitality. So if I go back a few slides, the women were wearing yellow. I didn't know it at the time. I learned it afterwards. That yellow means hospitality. So they were welcoming us. They were welcoming us with open arms. And all those colors, those have the different meanings. So we went to them like, hey, we've picked some colors. Can you please share your feelings with all those colors? We want to know. We read Wikipedia, we heard some things, but we want to know from the people on the ground. One of the guys said, no, keep that thing away from me. Keep those colors away from me, because my priest cannot see that. I was amazed. I was like, I looked him in the eye. What do you mean your priest cannot see that? He said, it looks a lot like the rainbow flag. And we are really accepting all kind of views and all kind of sexualities over here in the West. And especially as coming from the Netherlands, I think it's really important to be able to express yourself. But that's not the case in the whole world, sadly enough. Of course, we in the West, we think it should change, right? But in a lot of parts in the world, it's forbidden to have a same-sex marriage, for example. You can get imprisoned. You can get killed for that. So if you are living in a country where there is a death penalty on being homosexual, and you've been seen with a color sheet that according to your priest, looks like the flag of what the church preaches, the evil. And that, once again, not my opinion, but that's what lives over there. So we made this mistake to go with this because it looks like this, because it resulted in that. It's really hard. It's a hard reality. And I must confess, I've been in some villages where I cried in the corner of the village just to see how things were going. There's a lot of hope, but there's also still a lot that, that's just off, for us at least, but normal over there. The last change in these acts was in 2023 in Uganda. So Uganda is a bit, sub-Saharan, so south. They, they changed the law. Consensual homosexual sex is now also the death sentence. So once again, just to make it clear, it's something that's still going on, and that's getting stricter in some areas. Some other areas are getting more let go. This is the guy I call the Mango Man. So the Mango Man, he lived in a village, and I was going to let him listen what we call a drama story. We also know it as a podcast or a storybook. We let him listen to a sound file, which, in another village, people were laughing about. It was like a humor thing. It went about some food, and then that was stolen, and then the wife found out, and she hit his man with like a pen or something. They laughed. There were tears in the eyes from how fun they thought it was. But now we went to another town, and the guy clicked it away. He played it 5 seconds, clicked it away. And I was like, those guys think it's funny. Don't you want to listen to it? I said, nah. He said, nah, brother, nah. I was like, okay, we can continue, but why not? You don't have time, or? Nah. I can hear the accent, he said. I can hear the accent. This is a guy that lives near the coast. And people near the coast, oh man, they only have 2 mango trees. Look at my garden. I have 6 mango trees. I'm not going to listen to someone that only has 2 mango trees near the coast. So that opened our eyes, that we have to hyper-localize our context based on the location of the people. And that also has to do with distrust. Because tribes, you still have tribes in a lot of countries, they have some rich history fighting each other. So that he just didn't want to listen for it. Which is odd, really odd, because just of an accent to stop listening. Another thing is animation of people. Who knows these kind of sketches? I see quite some hands. In the Netherlands, a lot of governmental websites use them as well. Not in black and white, but in colored. But they're all the same theme. The source is underneath. I just copied it from it. So we tried to use animations in the app, because if we are going to support 20 or 30 languages, people might distrust each other based on facial structures, like having a bigger nose. That means he's from another tribe, because that's how bloodlines work, funnily enough. Yeah, we cannot use it in the app, so we're like, we will do animations. That's fine. That also saves a lot of money, right? So we used things like this. But that was wrong. Again, we messed up. We messed up again, big time. Because one, people said to me, what is this, a children book? I see paintings, we only use that for children. And I was, okay, fair enough. And then they were looking at, we tried to make images as diverse as possible. People with long hair, short hair, someone even in a wheelchair, someone with a hat and glasses. But who wears a hat in Africa? Yeah, some people, rich people, going on a safari to block out the sun. But it was not representative to the people that live there. So we were like, we cannot use actors or pictures for every hyper-local thing. We try to help a lot of people, but sometimes it's different. So we changed to this.
Habari rafiki yangu. Mimi ni Baraka. Kupitia app ya Kijanisha nimeweza kujifunza jinsi ya kuboresha shamba langu na kuongeza mavuno yangu.
So that person doesn't really exist, to be honest. It's an AI model. It's a guy generated by AI already 2 years ago. So it's already old in terms of AI because it changes every week. We call him Baraka. And we can generate different people, like different people called Baraka, or different shirts, different facial expressions. They can speak any language. So we do not have to hire actors and in every country or in every region. We can tweak it everywhere and we can test it. Proof of that is the next video.
Hello, my name is Maria.
Na jina langu ni Baraka.
Nous sommes les instructeurs du cours de la plateforme de reverdissement numérique.
Leli qonga linikeza isandla emizameni ye-Justdiggit yokuluhlaza amakhulu ezigigidi zamahetha omhlaba.
إعادة تخضير الأراضي المتدهورة يساهم في كوكب أكثر صحة وأبرد.
በሞባይል ቴክኖሎጂ እና በአነት ማስተናገድ ድጋፍ እንቅስቃሴያችን ማፍጫ እና ማበረስ እንችላለን።
Dis hoekom dit so gerieflik is in ons selfkunsmatige intelligensie en kan baie tale praat.
Dig in to learn more.
So yeah, on a big screen like this, of course, it looks a bit wonky, a bit weird. You can probably focus if you know it's AI, that it's AI. But to be in a country where AI isn't really known, people see it as trustworthy. And of course, we add disclaimers. I started an ethics committee at our work. Since we work a lot with AI, we try to put ethics first, ethics in the loop everywhere. So we have these disclaimers that say it's AI generated, but people were like, oh, he looks like one of us. And funnily enough, this is really funny, I think, our engagement numbers went up with women watching the guy because he thought he was really hot and sexy. So that was also nice. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I'm not really sure, I lost track of time this week because we had some boat rides and other things. But Google released VO3. And VO3 is a new AI model. I don't know if you have seen it, but the next small snippet is the current state of AI since 2 days.
This ocean, it's a force, a wild, untamed might. And she commands your awe with every breaking light.
So we are hoping to use this technology to enable even better videos, to not have to hire actors, even though we would like to hire actors everywhere because it's a great profession, but yeah, money always talks. So we are hoping to use the technology pretty soon in the app as well. Another thing is navigation in the app. So most of you are UX. Who's a UX designer? Nobody? Oh, that's funny. UI designer? Also not? Oh, pretty cool. We use a lot of arrows on websites, in apps, to navigate to one screen to another. At the right, it's an image shot in Australia. It's near the road, arrows. On the left, I don't know, it's the same site for you as well? Different way around. But the one without the arrows is in Tanzania. So we ask a guy, do you know what an arrow is? Once again, not to be stupid, but he said, yeah, I know. He even spoke English, which was really rare in the region. I know what an arrow is. I use it sometimes to kill an animal with. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, makes sense. If you do not know icons in an app, you also will not use them. It's like giving us, except when you're Chinese or no Chinese, giving us a Chinese app. We will just see scribbly lines, and people from China most of them can read it flawlessly. So always be sure if you're going, and these tips I'm giving you also is to improve it over here in the West, of course. It's just accessibility. And yes, I know area labels and reading back, and you have seen plenty of talks about that, but this is the reality, that you should also add text to it. I put it here and now in English, so you would understand as well, but of course most of the app is in Swahili. And when back is added, people understood that they could go back with that button. Another thing, Yes, interactive bit. Are we still awake, by the way? It's already quite late. Had the after lunch dip already. Almost. I think there's one talk after this, and then a party and other fun talks. So stay awake, you too. Kidding. Um, does anybody want to guess what we see right now? It is an icon from our app. A farmer. Okay. Someone else. I know it's Norway, but please help me out. Sorry? A soldier. Yeah, could also be the case. Yeah, but you're all wrong. Funnily enough, because you do not see it. You don't see it. This is a river with the sun rising. It's a bit cloudy. Don't know what that other L is on the side, but that's the feedback we got. And yes, you were correct. It was a farmer in our app. But in the markets where we use the app, nobody wears a hat like that. And nobody is cutting grass with the, sorry, I'm not a native English speaker, but with the thingy, like the Dead Reaper also has, that thing. So yeah, we were wrong once again. Even every time we released an app, we were wrong. Which is also quite funny. Learned a lot. That's why here. Another thing is hardware. I changed the slide because it first said, what the F are these brands? Because that was my genuine thought, but that's how on earth, what are these brands? So we've got other brands of hardware. I'm a native Android developer by trade. So, any other app developers? Nice, welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I'm doing native app development. Sorry if you do Xamarin or Maui, condolences, but the thought is the same. So Android is a scattered market. You get literally thousands of different devices, and every manufacturer can pick the software on the device. It changes time by time. So if I run something on a Samsung phone, it might break on a Huawei phone because the operating system has been changed. So we see other brands over there. Funny thing, Nokia is still really big. So your Finnish friends will be happy, I guess. But, and just to be sure, I don't know if there are Polish people in the room. That one says Techno Bab Kupwa, not something else, just for the Polish people. But it has different brands that we don't know now. We might know Oppo over here, at least in the Netherlands, is quite becoming a big brand. Which a fun fact is, I once talked to someone of Oppo, and he confessed to me that they called it Oppo because a lot of mainland Chinese people will say it as the same way as Apple. So their watch is called the Oppo watch, and it looks like the Apple watch. So people get confused, and then they buy their stuff. So I thought that was really funny. But China has a really big influence on parts of Africa. They call it modern colonization. And it's basically selling phones that cheap, under the cost price, just to sell phones. The Netherlands and other European countries did it as well with healthcare, for example. And if we have countries like Russia, they had a time where they would send TVs to people that did not have TV. Does it make sense? Yes, it does make sense. If you sell or give away a lot of phones with, for example, Chinese operating system, you can push Chinese news to those people. So you can influence big markets. From the Russian market as well. If you send TVs with a satellite dish, and that satellite dish can only get Russia today, yeah, you've got influence in the sphere. Western countries do that as well, but they do it more in other forms, like putting a school somewhere, but then also think about what gets taught in those schools. So it's not about picking what country is wrong or right, it happens. Just to be clear. So these brands are different. And that also causes that we have to test for these phones. So we had the shipment of these phones going to the Netherlands, all the way to Tanzania, to test our app on those operating systems. And we have seen crashes that we have never seen before. So if you're going to new markets, make sure what hardware they're using, quite obviously, I guess, and try to import those if possible. Another thing is a bad connection. So what do you see here? Absolutely nothing. It is just greenery. There are no telephone lines, no power, nothing. And it goes on for hours and hours and hours and hours. The nice thing is you will see giraffes, you will see elephants, lions if you're lucky. But the one thing you will not see is any connection on your phone. Those things have downsides. Because even though we call it digital detoxing, right? Oh, I'm going to digital detox. I'm going to camp for one day and hope I survive without a phone. Yeah, it's way of life over there. There is no antenna to connect your phone to. The stupid thing is that you still want to use apps, especially if you are going to learn things. The more stupid thing is, if your phone lacks connection, your battery will drain, because it will start looking and scanning for masts around to connect to. So even if you have a dual SIM, I have a dual SIM iPhone, for example, I see that the battery is draining faster than, ironic, I know, an iPhone for an Android developer, but I bought an iPhone when I developed apps for Android, and I was like, okay, I get it, I'm not going to use this myself. Sidetrack, your battery will drain. And if you do not have access to solid electricity line, you have to be careful with that. So that's something you need to take into account. On Android, this is the only really technical thingy, but I'm not going to show any code, so designers, relax. Please stay with me. We have to split everything up within the app. We have two logic flows. So we have a repository, and the repository is basically the thing that gets the data. We have a local data source and a network data source. So if we are connected to the internet, we will also always use the most recent version of information. If we are connected to internet, we will always download that information and put it into our local data source. So if you are not connected to internet, you still have your things offline. I must say, if I had internet in Tanzania, the one times I connected, it was the fastest internet I ever had, because there is no legacy, so they can just blast the newest things, which is really cool. But yeah, there are just regions. I think I've never been to Norway, I must confess. I still wanted to, but I really hate cold, so that's a personal issue. I really wanted to, and I think if you go up north in some places, there might be limited internet as well. At least I assume, because there are a lot of trees and very few houses. So how does that work? If you have the work manager on Android, you can just start. Start is where we start, obviously. We are going to try to connect to the internet to see, hey, can I reach this information? Can I download a new course in my learning app? Yeah, here it is. You've got internet, and then it's done. If you do not have internet, you can go two ways. You can try it again and try it again and try it again and try it again, which sucks because your battery will go down and you use resources. But you have to see first if you have the data offline, obviously. You can do it in two ways. You can do it exponential, which is basically we are going to try the internet, and if we do not have internet, we will try again in a minute. If we don't have internet in a minute, we will go to 2 minutes. If we don't have it in 2 minutes, we will try again in 4 minutes, and then it grows, because the chance is quite slim that you have connection in a very short time. Other way is linear. So linear is just, we are going to check every 2-3 seconds, which is also an option, but then you will drain the battery. And you will use more data because you're doing more checks, and if you're doing more checks, you will crush people megabytes. I do have an unlimited plan. I don't know how it is in Norway, but you just pay your provider some money and they give you unlimited internet, right? Tanzania is different. It's really different. First of all, it's all still prepaid based because you do not have a bank account, so how can you pay a subscription? But you can buy day passes and weekly passes and daily passes and use internet, which is really cool because you're now connected to the whole world. You can learn everything from our learning app. But what I put underneath is if my calculations were correctly, but the valuta changes every day. This was this morning. As you can see at 9:12, that was when I'm putting the final touches on this slide. That's around 50 euros, or 576 krona. That's what a lot of farmers earn in a month over there. So imagine that you are going to a job. I think most people work in IT, and I guess we're doing pretty well, to be honest, especially in Norway. And then imagine that you spend 1/3 or even half of your whole salary just to see stupid videos on TikTok, for example. So we really have to be sparse on using internet. And that's a real big topic to take into account, to not just drain the megabytes. As I said, you should also not drain megabytes over here, but most people will not complain because they have unlimited gigabytes or that many gigabytes that you will not see if 200 kilobytes get more downloaded. So that's really important. Accessibility, always key. I'm not going to dive into that because there were already 3-4 talks before me about accessibility and what you should do and should not do. But we have other accessibility issues over there. I talked with this woman, really nice woman. She had a big family, and she was really eager to learn things about how she can regreen everything around the house, because if she has a tree for shade, her goat will not die. If your goat will not die, you will not be bankrupt. But she used the app. And I was like, do you know how a mobile phone works? That's just, sounds really obvious, but it ain't, because some people share a phone with all the people in the family. Yeah, I use phones all the time. I use WhatsApp to WhatsApp with my children. I use YouTube to look up cooking things. And I was like, okay, this is the app, please use it. She was really eager to use it. But I saw her eyes, she was scanning through the phone and she would just press random buttons. And then I asked her, can you read? Yeah, I went to school. I'm the only one in my family who finished the whole school at my age. And I said, no, that's something to be proud of. But then she confessed that she needed glasses, and her glasses broke 2 months ago, and she cannot read anymore because she don't have glasses. So also take into account to always be able to scale the layout. I'm not going to dive into that and how to do that, but yeah, please always take into account that if you press Ctrl+ on a keyboard, if you're designing a website, for example, that the website is still workable. So she doesn't have enough funds, but hospitals also mainly do not have enough funds. Polio is also a thing. Polio is also called crippling disease. Can be a fatal infectious disease. There is no real cure, but we do have effective vaccines. So, good news is, this is really good news. Polio is almost gone. Still going places, but it's almost gone. But if you have a crippling disease, and that's once again, this is not to mock. If people try to cut this video into segments, please do not, because otherwise I might get cancelled if you don't know the right context. But if you have crippling disease, your legs can get other forms, like that's why it's called crippling disease, but also like your hands. So instead of your hand being like this, your hand can grow like this or even like this. And if you're trying to use a touchscreen or a keyboard, for example, you have to use other inputs. And it's really rare. I mean, in Europe, it's gone since 2002, I believe. In the USA in the year 2000, no single case left. But it's something you need to take into account to also test those accessibility options even more. Even more extensive than you do in the Netherlands, or in Norway, or in Germany, or in Poland, or whatever. Another thing is, a lot of people cannot read because this is what a state-of-the-art school looks like. Yeah, I was just sitting here, I was behind the teacher's desk, and animals and critters were coming out of the roof. So if you do not live in an area where you can go to school, or where people can pay for the school because it's also really expensive. And if you have to put the half of your money to your phone plan, then yeah, it might be hard. Then a lot of people cannot really read. So we are experimenting a lot with those images, but also with readability, like a text being read to you. I'm currently into a discussion with some people from accessibility team of Google, where yes, I have accessibility like screen readers, but those are basically made for people that are blind. But we just want people to listen to text. So we want to have access to those models that we can use, like Google Assistant Voice, to read back. I hope they will fix that soon. If you want to test accessibility on Android, this is the app for Schiphol Airport we made. You can test it with, really good name, Accessibility Scanner. So if you're developing apps on Android, please use that one. It will highlight all the most obvious things. It will not do the research, but a lot like colors, color contrast, touch areas, like too big, too small, will highlight it for you. Another thing is system dialogues are never translatable. So if you are shipping an app in Swahili, for example, your system dialogues will be in English, because Swahili is mostly not important on phones. So always be clear, say, oh, there's a thing popping up. It is mainly in this language, and that means that. For payments, people are using M-Pesa, no credit cards. M-Pesa is prepaid phone, and you can just share your prepaid phone money with other people. And you can get insurances with it. You can top it up at a shop like this. You can just go there, give the guy money, he will put the money. Do I really have to explain how prepaid phones work? I don't really know what all the engines are. But so you basically top up your phone, but that's also your wallet, because most people do not use a bank. So they can send each other the money from each other prepaid cards. That's how they pay for insurance. Even takeaway can be ordered via things called the M-Pesa app. You can withdraw cash. You can go to an ATM, scan a QR code with your phone, and money will get out, and they will remove it from your prepaid plan. So the telecom provider is also the bank, which I think is really funny. So do not, if you're going to African markets, I have an e-commerce background. So please don't bother to put in credit cards. Start with M-Pesa first. Credit cards will follow later. Closing talks, because we've been here for an hour already, and I see some people like, I want to go to bed. Almost there. Closing talks, just to a really cheesy reminder. We are all people. Be kind to each other. If people think differently, or it might even look stupid, like how do you not know what an arrow is? Those people are living life for the first time too, right? They just do not know what a symbol means. It doesn't mean people are stupid. Be curious. Please be curious. Find out what other people are doing, how they are looking at life. I learned so much in just a week in Tanzania that I was like, oh, in a few months I'm going to fly to South Africa to see how it is there as well. But please be kind. And please remember, do not cut this video without the proper context, please. I beg everyone looking this back on YouTube, because I do not have time to get cancelled for something being out of context. All right. So if you want to keep in touch with me, or if you have any questions, and yes, I woke you up with this white screen, that was intentional. Please feel free to send a message on LinkedIn. I will also be here, I think, tonight, because I heard there is a pretty good party, so I will be there. If you want to support efforts, I'm not really the NGO guy, and I was really happy to also see NDC. I think it's not that secret that they gave me a contribution to an NGO instead of something of plastic, so I'm really happy and grateful for that. But if you want to support actions with Justdiggit, there's a QR code to be found over there. And I would like to thank you all to be here at this late time and really enjoy the party afterwards. Thank you all.